Welcome back to the Business BFF podcast. And today's episode is a bit of a special one because we're pulling back the curtains on the magic that happens behind the scenes here at the Women's Accountant and introducing you to the woman who keeps the entire ship sailing smoothly. She's the first name in your inbox. She's the brains behind our workflows, the keeper of the calendars, and my right-winged woman in every sense of the world. Please welcome Emily, our practice manager, operations ninja, and the calm to our chaos. Welcome, Em. Welcome to the Business BFF, the podcast where fierce and fabulous business women come together for the kind of real talk and honest advice only your besties would give. I'm your host, Emma Bowdler, founder of The Women's Accountant, and I'm here to help you navigate the wild world of business, finance, and life. Whether you're scaling up, starting fresh, or just need a pep talk from someone who gets it, you're in the right place. So grab your favourite bevy and get comfy. It's time for a chat with your business BFFs.
Hello.
How are you feeling?
I'm a bit nervous, but I'm excited.
Now, this podcast has been a really long time coming for us. We've spoken about it for such a long time, and the plan was always for us to co-host it. So what I want to do today is start from the very top. For anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of coming into contact with you, who are you and what do you do here at the Women's Accountant?
So I'm Emily. So I'm a wife to one, mum to two, Miss 15 and Mr. almost, practice manager here. So I am a qualified accountant as well. And do all the things that keep us running.
And I guess that's what I am so grateful for. And I remember that you had come into my life during COVID. So let's start with that. What brought you into the world of accounting and into business operations? And was that always the plan for you? I know that you had business background before you come to us, but let's talk about that.
So I guess my background, I had retail experience. Then I moved into an accounts role with a local communications and IT company. And then I ended up in a PA position there because the general manager, basically, he was stepping into that role and he said, I won't do it without Emily as my PA. So I've kind of worked in that space. I did start a marketing degree straight out of school and then decided not to do that. And my husband worked in forensics. And so we moved 900 odd Ks away from family. And it was kind of a documentary that kind of brought me back into accounting. So obviously PTSD is very prevalent in his industry. So I kind of watched this documentary and went, I need a plan B for my family and that kind of thing. So that's what sent me back to uni. And so I did a dual degree, so Bachelor of Accounting, Bachelor of Business in Property and Marketing. So a little bit of a mixed bag. And we just moved back to Toowoomba. We got a posting back here. And I remember scrolling social media one day and I'd enjoyed my accounting stuff and I'd enjoyed the premise behind business, but it was kind of a little bit dry, I guess you'd say. And I remember thinking, and I said to my husband, I said, because he's like, accounting's a bit boring. And I'm like, yeah, but it's business. There's fun stuff in there. And I was scrolling social media this one night, doom scrolling as you do. And I came across the Women's Accountant. And I remember showing my husband my phone and going, see, fun accountants do exist. And he's kind of like, what? And he's had a look and he's scrolled through a few of the posts and everything. And he's like, oh. So I clicked the like button or the follow button. I can't remember what it was back then. And so I was following And then it was a few months later and there was an assistant accountant position listed. So I applied. So I'd had a previous interview with a standard accounting firm, which didn't go terribly well. And so I had my resume already. So I sent it through and then kind of just waited. And I got a phone call I got an email from Emma to say, hey, can I book in a time? And I was like, oh, okay. So I remember I actually got that email when I was at the hairdresser. So then I kind of was trying to contain my excitement. And so I got home and I'm ringing all these people going, she wants to interview me. So a little bit of a fangirl moment. And so then, yes, I came in for an interview. Actually, I think I rang because I'd gotten the email. So I rang to schedule the interview. And I think we ended up having like a 15-minute on the phone.
I think we did, Em, actually. It was insane. And can I just say, like, I've always been very fortunate enough to, whenever we've advertised for a role, we've always got really, really good applicants. What made you stand out from everybody else is that you actually took the time to know about our business. And you were the only one of everybody that I shortlisted that addressed your cover letter to me. It wasn't a dear hiring partner or dear sir or madam. So if you are listening to this and you are a job seeker, go and find out who you need to address those letters to, because it's stuff like that that makes the difference. So when we think back to our first meeting, Em, and it was like, I'm almost certain that I had decided to hire you before I'd even met you. What made you say yes to the job?
I think it was meeting you in person, and sometimes you can see people on social media and they are one way, and then you meet them in person and the two don't quite match. But meeting you in person was the same as seeing you on social media. And so that, I guess that kind of gives you that little bit of safety and security that there's no skeletons in the closet, if that makes sense. And so it's that authenticity that was there. It was the flexibility and also just the approachability.
Yep.
And you're a mum as well. And so, yeah, just that.
Yeah, look, and I think that's probably a fair assumption, Em, and it's something that you and I have spoken about before, in the sense that we are a business that what you see is what you get. And I completely resonate with what you're saying there, is that sometimes you can follow somebody or read something about somebody, but the pair don't match up. And I guess for a lot of employees, that can be a little bit off-putting, I guess.
It's a bit jarring if there's not that level of same faith.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. So if we were to open up the engine room of the women's accountant, can you give everyone a sneak peek, skeletons and all, as to what an average day looks like for you, if such a thing even exists? Because I know what the answer is going to be to this, and it'll be wild.
There's no average day here. Some days you're donning a unicorn costume and you're running up the street or running around a roundabout. Some days you're answering emails. Some days you spend 3 hours on the phone to the ATO. Some days it's new client meetings or discovery calls with clients. It's helping clients. It's recording looms. It's sharing our knowledge with our clients so that their business can progress and grow. Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag. And I think one thing that we do really well is that, yes, no 2 days are ever the same, but shit, we have fun. Always fun. So what is something that people listening would be surprised to know that you handle in our business and I don't?
I handle all the IT stuff and the techie stuff, as we refer to it. I'm the one crawling under desks and outside, checking, power boxes if there's a power outage, or crawling under the desk and unplugging the modems and the routers and all of that.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for that because I am not the girl for that job. So appreciate that, Em. Now, you have built a lot of structure into our business. What systems or workflows are you secretly proud of?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would probably say it's it's like picking a favorite child. Perhaps, can I say all of them?
You can say
In
all
that
of them.
I just they're each a little bit different and a bit unique. And I think the fact that they're never stagnant, we don't kind of make them and go, yep, that's done. They're always evolving and growing and changing. If we find a better way to do something, then we're open to those changes and that progress.
I think the biggest thing for me, Em, with what you brought to our practice is that, I have come from a very traditional practice where we didn't have anything that was online. When I first started in the accounting industry, one of my roles was to scan and archive tax returns. And the oldest tax return that I found was back to like 1962. So for me, I didn't have structure before you come along. And, to have that now and have systems and processes that really allow us to do what we focus on really well, I think has been a game changer. So the next question is, how do you keep things moving forward when we are juggling all of the things? And I'm talking tax returns, advisory, content, webinars, podcasts, and all of the extras. How do you keep on top of all of that?
Some days I feel like I don't. And I think that, okay, we don't like to live in that space. But I think having lists, having those checklists going, this needs to happen, having our due date, and being pretty firm with our due date. So there's some due dates where we're like, this is a hard and fast due date. Some due dates have a little bit more flex to them. And I guess it's, as we talk about in our slate all day, it's knowing which ball is what time.
Yeah, exactly. So just for our listeners, do you want to do a bit of a explanation of how we talk about balls?
Yeah.
Balls in our business? What does that look like?
We talk about them. So we have glass balls. So they're the ones that if you drop them, they shatter and cause really sort of bad things.
It's the things that we can't get wrong.
Yeah. So they're kind of those hard and fast rules. So they're a lot of the ATO deadlines and things like that. Then we've got our rubber balls, and they're the ones that bounce. So if we don't necessarily get, say, a webinar planned on a certain day, then we can kind of move it to the day after if something major's happened. Like, it's always still going to be on our list to do, and we'll always need to make sure we get those things done. But there's that little bit more flex in the actual execution of that.
Well, then the things that aren't going to make or break our business. A perfect example that I think of with that is if we haven't scheduled our social media for the week,
Yeah.
like stuff like that.
Yeah. Then we've got our bowling ball. So when we do that, that gives us a strike in our business. So they're those ones that I guess it is sometimes our social media or it's our webinars and those sorts of things. It's those things where we can get them out to people and they're going to make the most impact to our business, but also to your business.
Even things like I'm thinking of, and absolutely the marketing side of things is one of those things if we're looking for new clients. But one of our bowling balls, I think, is actually knowing our numbers. That's a really key one because we know what we can leverage to get where we want to get.
Yeah.
And what's our
I think
ball?
that's one of the important things that we do here is we know our numbers inside out. So we know what it's those KPI.
Yeah.
But having them relevant to our business and having them relevant to, our listeners' businesses.
So our fourth ball is one that you remind me of all the time because I'm an ideas person and you are the one that will always refer to my new ideas as.
The shiny disco balls.
So what are the shiny disco balls, Em?
So shiny disco balls, they could be, so for us, it was the podcast. So at one point that was the shiny disco ball. And it was kind of that idea that we had. It's important and it's something to grow towards, but it's not absolutely necessary to get done straight away.
Yeah. It's the things, and we call it shiny object syndrome, is where we'll be working towards something and then something else will come up or an idea pops up and then I'll always be inclined to jump into that project. And you always remind me, Em, let's just park that idea and focus on the things that, we might want to implement that later, but let's focus on the things that we know now that are going to make a difference. So I truly appreciate that for you because, I think without that, the way that my brain works is I would absolutely have 50 million things going on at once.
Yeah.
So let's talk about us. We have been together, like I refer to you as my work wife. You were my second hire in this business and you have been here for how long now?
5 years?
I think it is 2, actually.
Maybe 6, almost 6, 5.
Is it 6 in October?
Possibly.
Possibly. Okay, so let's talk about us. And again, skeletons and all, what is it really like working with me? I'm not going to you pay or sack you as a result of your answers.
So working with Emma it's almost like you become part of the family. And I think it's that ability I think we can kind of have those tough conversations and there's no extra emotion in there, if it makes sense. So sometimes we can have those tough conversations and I know I've done that previously and I'll walk in and I go, need to have a practice manager chat. But then 5 minutes later, it's back to just normal banter in the office and chats and that kind of thing. Yeah.
I think, for both of us, Em, we very open and honest and upfront people. And if something isn't working for either of us, there is never a conversation that we can't have. And I really appreciate that. And I know that we've had some really frank and fearless convos over the years. What is one of them that we have navigated really well in hindsight?
Probably one of them that I remember is when I kind of first stepped into this role, it was a bit of a conversation and I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And so it was a bit of a conversation. I realized you were kind of maybe doing a little bit too much and there was possibly some things on your plate that could have been readjusted, redistributed, like given to someone else.
Yeah, delegated.
And so it was kind of testing the waters on, how do I have this conversation? How do I go into the boss? Like that.
And it's so funny because I think I remember that first conversation and you're like, how much can I push back? How much can I kind of take away? And now, like nearly 6 years on, it's like barge in. It's like, righto, you're not doing this anymore and I'm taking it.
Yeah, so it's, and I think I've grown in this role because of that. So I think having those tough conversations, provided they're done respectfully, I think make the difference.
So then on the back of that, so what are the things that make our working relationship work, even when we're in the weeds?
Honesty, and that ability to swap hats in a way. So we can kind of put on our, business owner, practice manager hat and kind of have that frank conversation and then still be able to then have that bit of banter. And I think it's understanding each other and how we work. And we've been doing a little bit of work on that outside with some other, coaching and that kind of thing. And I think it's understanding ourselves as people and leaders and everything, and being able to weave that together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And one word that keeps sticking out for me personally is that accountability. When we say we're going to do something, if one of us aren't delivering, neither of us have any issue with going to the other person and saying, "Hey, Em, you said you were going to do this, but you didn't. What's going on?" And I guess as a founder, that is something that I personally truly appreciate. So, next question is, I really want to tap into the human side of business. And
Mhm.
what is it that you love most about working with women in business?
That's a very good question. I would say, other than it's the people, it's the relationships, it knowing where they're at, it being a part of their journey and their growth as a business owner. And sometimes it is having those tough conversations.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely the people that you meet along the way and the impact that we can have as advisors with them.
And I love that. And I think that's something that I really love about working with women in business too. We make so many sacrifices, whether it's through family or spouses, businesses or children or whatever that looks like, to know that we are building something so special here to support those women in business, and to think that we've got a part of that. I agree with you. Like, that for me is what's so freaking important.
Yeah. And
So, sorry.
yeah. No, I was just going to say it's exciting to be part of those big decisions too, when they are buying a new business or they're planning retirement and all those kinds of things, and those fun things.
I think it's even about celebrating those milestones. Like, how many clients have we had that, maybe they have got married or had a child or whatever that looks like. It's not just the business side of things
No.
that we're involved in. It's, those big life milestones that we get to be a part of. So, has anything surprised you about yourself since stepping into this practice manager role?
Ooh, okay. I would say I'm still slightly more of a perfectionist than I ever want to kind of admit. But I also think that I've been able to grow in this role, and myself personally, I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we're capable of. So I think sometimes we kind of, I guess, undervalue ourselves. And so I think sometimes we can just kind of have that, it's just my job, or, it's just what I do.
And that's what I think I love about you, Em, is that you are as invested in this business as what I am. And I think as a founder, that is really hard to find, like so hard to find. So if you were to think about a moment that made you feel really proud of what we've built together, what would that be?
We've had lots of moments. Releasing our affirmation cards, like the first short product, was a pretty exciting moment here.
Yeah.
I think releasing the podcast as well, because there was a lot of planning and it had been on the list for so long. So I think the fact that it's been not done, but that it's happening, it's working, people are engaged with it. And our Flail Day workbook is probably another one.
If I think about the operations side of a business, and a lot of our listeners won't know this, but when you are an accountant and you are lodging compliance work with the ATO, they actually judge us on our level of on-time lodgements. And if we are below a certain threshold, we actually get in trouble for that. So when I think about your role as workflow manager and building all of that, that makes me super proud because, I think this financial year alone, we're sitting at about 96% Now, that's unheard of in the accounting industry. So I think operationally, that's something that we can be super proud of because we've built the systems that enable that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's think about, sorry, Em.
No, I was going to say, I think that's because that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, it does. And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't see that side of things.
No.
So if we are looking ahead, what are you most excited for over the next 12 months that we are going to do here at the Women's Accountant?
So operationally, I'm going to say we are looking into streamlining some of our our queries. It kind of getting that information back from our clients. So we're looking at streamlining that system even more. So it's pretty streamlined now, but there is a couple of creases in the road. So
we're sometimes touching things more than once, and we don't like to touch things more than once.
No. So getting that implemented and running well is one thing I'm looking forward to. What else? I think I'm also excited about the growth that we're experiencing at the moment. So we just getting more clients on board and being a part of more people's journeys.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think a big part of that work is going to be around, really leaning into who we are, who we serve, and who we don't. And, we're both never a fan of, growing for the sake of it. We need to be growing for the right reasons. And I think one of the things that you certainly keep me accountable for is if we're going to grow is to making sure that we've got the systems, the people, and the processes in place that support that growth, because neither of us wants scaled chaos.
No one wants scale.
No, that's not fun. So if you had a magic wand and could change one thing about how small businesses run, what would it be?
Processes. So that's a bit of a broad one. So making sure that you're doing everything you possibly can within your budget or your capacity to make it easier on yourself and your staff. So it's making sure that you've got that process written down. It's not just in your head. It's written down so that you can kind of go back to it. Someone else can take that up.
Why do I feel seen when you say that?
A lot of business owners have all that information in their head. And if you can get that on a piece of paper, it means that someone else can be doing tasks. And they might actually really enjoy doing that task. And it means that it comes off your plate onto their plate and they'll enjoy it. You get a little bit more free time and happy day.
I think that's really important, particularly if you were in that startup phase, is to have those things documented, because as you grow and scale, and what we learned very quickly when you come on is a lot of that stuff was in my head. And, you have that, everything falls to the founder, and it's really, really common. But if you can set up those systems and processes in a way that allow you to bring other people in to do those roles, it makes it so much easier when you think about hiring. So last question, Em, before we wrap it up. For anybody stepping into a leadership or a practice manager role, what is one piece of advice that you'd give to them?
One piece of advice would be being open and honest. So having those conversations, but if you notice something that could change or could make a difference, I guess it's kind of speaking up and kind of going, hey, have we considered this? Or why do we do this? Sometimes that could save within the business, it could save money or it could save time. Or sanity. And it's just, being open and honest, but sometimes it's also researching. So it's sometimes using technology to your advantage.
Yeah.
So recording different things. Yeah, we record a lot of things here.
I think even one thing that I think about is, leadership and management. Often you will have, that person who might own the business, But that leadership person or that practice manager person, their voice is abso-friggin-lutely so valuable at the table when it comes to the strategic planning and the direction of the business. So, thank you for everything that you do, everything you do for our team, our clients, and for me. You are truly the calm in the chaos, and I personally could not do it without you. If you've ever wondered who's keeping all of the things moving behind the scenes here at the Women's Accountant, now you know. Emily is our go-to, our glue, and if you've worked with us, you've probably already seen the ripple effect of what happens when good humans run great systems. Thanks for joining us on the Business BFF podcast, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Business BFF. We hope you found this episode equal parts big hug and kick up the bum. All the things a bestie is good for. Remember, you've got this, and we've got your back like only a BFF can. If you've loved what you've heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow business besties. Don't forget to follow us on social media at The Women's Accountant for more tips, tricks, and behind-the-scenes fun. Until next time, keep being fierce and oh so fabulous. If you've liked what you've heard today and you've had a bit of a light bulb moment, let us know. The best way to keep the conversation going is to come and hang with us over on Instagram at The Women's Accountant. Until next time, remember, you've got this.